All right, in this video, we'll talk about the basics of probability. Probability is defined as the likelihood of an event taking place. Probability falls on a continuum from 0 to 1, where a probability of 0 is something that will never occur. And probability of 1 or 100% is something that is certain to occur. And then, of course, half the way here is equally likely or unlikely, of course. So, probability of having a probability of heads or tails is probably the easiest way to demonstrate a 1/2, that kind of thing. But the equally or likely or unlikely. All right. The absolute most basic way to define how to calculate probability is success over total. In other words, you count the number of ways to succeed, and you count the total number of outcomes. So all of 9.6, you learned about counting methods. Well, here's where they come good, where you need to be able to count the ways to succeed. You need to count the total number of ways that an event can occur, and the probability of an event is success over total. So let's look at a nice basic probability problem. If we roll 2 6-sided dice simultaneously, find some probabilities there. So first of all, let's talk about the total number of outcomes. If we roll 2 6-sided dice, there are not 12, but there are 36 total outcomes. Because the first die number 1, has 6 outcomes. Die number 2 has 6 outcomes. And fundamental counting principle says that you multiply 6 times 6. And if you have trouble seeing that it's 36 total outcomes, here they are. Here are the 36 total outcomes of rolling 2 dice. So the best way to think about it is you have 2 different colored dice. That way you can see that 4-2 is a different outcome than 2-4, or 4-3 and 3-4, 6-3 and 3-6. Okay, so there are 36, a 6x6 array of total outcomes for rolling 2 dice. And then the outcome is the sum, right? 6 and 6 is 12, 4 and 2 is 6, etc. Okay? So when we roll 2 dice, we take the sum, and we're going to calculate some probabilities based on those rolling 2 dice. So what is the probability that both dice are 5? Well, there's only one of those combinations. It has to be a 5, and we'll do our red and green combination. A 5 and a 5. There is one outcome. There's one way for that to happen. So the probability is 1 out of 36. Probability for part B of the sum of the dice to be 7. Well, there are 6 ways for that to happen. There is a 1 and a 6, or a 6 and a 1. There is a 2 and a 5, or a 5 and a 2. 3 and a 4, or a 4 and a 3. The most common outcome on a set of rolled set of dice is a 7. So there are 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total ways to succeed over 36 total possibilities. So that would be 1 out of 6 if you reduce it. If you want to put that as a decimal, you get 0.16 repeating. All right. So for part B, now we're going to look at the sum is at least 10. So whenever you see the word at least, you can think 10 or 11 or 12. And whenever we have ors in probability, we can add them together. So this will be the probability of getting a 10 plus the probability of getting an 11 plus the probability of getting a 12. So the probability of getting a 10, count them, would be 6 and 4, 4 and 6, and 5 and 5. So it would be 3 out of 36. The ways to get an 11, probability of getting an 11 would be 5 and 6, 6 and 5, the only 2 ways to do that. So that would be 2 over 36. And the probability of getting a 12 only doubles, only a 6 and a 6. So it'd be 1 out of 36. So add them up, 3 plus 2 plus 1, all have a common denominator. So 6 over 36. You have the same probability of rolling a 7 as you do rolling at least a 10. So that's 1 over 6. I usually just keep things in fractions. And then finally, this word given changes your total number of outcomes. This is essentially what's going on there. What is the probability that the sum is a 10 given that at least one of the dice shows a 4? So given that at least one of the dice shows a 4, if you go back to your 6 by 6 array, you can see that this whole row and this whole column demonstrate the entire sample set of 4s. So if you wanted to go ahead and count them, you'd get 6 in that row, you'd get 6 in that column. But be careful, you would have counted that one twice. So there are 11 total ways to make sure that you're given that one of them shows a 4. So the sum is a 10 given that dice shows a 4. Well, there are 11 total ways for that to happen, 2 of which, 4 and 6, 6 and 4, are your 2 ways to get a 10 given that one of them shows a 4. So 2 over 11 would be your total probability based on that problem. All right, so it's all about success over total, and that is the way that you will succinctly define probability. Count the number of ways to succeed, count the number of ways total that the event can happen, and there's your probability.